exciting beauty of our country, our culture, and our people. That said, it is an honor and a pleasure to participate in this, the fifth staging of the ITU Accessible Americas Conference. It is a statement of the obvious that the world has become interconnected to an unprecedented extent. And whether you regard this as good or bad, the fact is that this phenomenon demands that countries share responsibility and contribute to a common vision. The leaders of the world, at least the vast majority of them, have recognized this and are responding to the challenges that it poses. And one such response is the adoption of the 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development in September 2015. The agenda called for several advances by the year 2030 and outlined 17 sustainable development goals. These goals represent a universal call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity. They encompass many aspects of human life, from health and education to job creation and sustainable energy. The SDGs are to be achieved around the world and by all UN member states. They speak to concerns that are common to countries regardless of their levels of development. And this means that all countries are called upon equally to play their part in finding shared solutions to the world's urgent challenges. The goal and the related targets are not merely promises or wish lists. Rather, they represent a set of actionable demands from citizens across the world on leaders and the United Nations to bequeath them or to bequeath to present and future generations a safe, secured, and prosperous planet. Sustainable development means addressing both economic and social sustainability. The SDGs underline the importance of social justice, equality, and inclusion in economic, social, and cultural life of all vulnerable groups for achieving a sustainable future. Notably, Jamaica's Development Plan, Vision 2030, and Elizabeth Emmanuel from the PIOJ will say something about that later, focuses on inclusive growth, sustainability, and social transformation, and is in step with the SDGs. The fact that development cannot be considered inclusive if poverty, inequality, and the lack of decent work opportunities are not addressed, or rather the fact is that development cannot be considered inclusive if poverty, inequality, and the lack of decent work opportunities are not addressed. The central pledge of the SDGs, therefore, is to ensure that no one is left behind. That is, each person on the face of this earth should have the opportunity to fulfill his or her potential. And this brings to mind a quote by the Russian writer Maxim Gorky, and it says, "Everybody, my friend, everybody lives for something better to come. That's why we want to be considerate of every man. Who knows what's in him, why he was born, and what he can do? No man left behind." This is a monumental task. However, as we will hear from our panelists, ICT can make and is making this task less daunting. Although access to and deployment of ICTs are cited as specific targets in only 4 of the SDGs, ICT plays a role in this realization of all of them. It is a powerful tool to be harnessed to achieve the global objectives that are embodied. This is a matter that is of critical importance to the Office of Utilities Regulation, which I represent, and which has telecommunications regulation as a substantial portion of its regulatory portfolio. Note that the broadcasting is actually regulated by a separate entity. The OER is seized with the imperative of the SDGs and the role that ICTs can play in their achievement. We are therefore committed to working with other stakeholders to extend the benefit of ICTs by ensuring they are affordable and accessible to all. And to this end, I'll just tell you about a few things that we have been doing in this fiscal year. We're paying particular attention to a key stakeholder group that is mentioned in the SDGs, i.e. persons with disabilities. Persons with disabilities are mentioned in the SDGs several times, in particular the parts related to education, growth, and employment, and inequality. We're also in the process of developing a framework aimed at ensuring equivalence of access and choice in telecommunications for persons with disabilities. The framework will seek to address PWD's capacity to access and use telecommunication services and associated services in an equivalent way to the other end users, and to exercise their choice. The OER has also taken steps to make its services accessible or more accessible. To this end, we're also seeking to update our website to make it more friendly to persons with disabilities. Our consumer affairs officers are currently being trained in Jamaican Sign Language. We have also been engaging extensively with persons with disabilities, their caregivers, and representative organizations in a bid to ensure that we are meeting their needs, requirements, and preferences. We're also committed to utilizing sign language interpreters in our town hall consultations and to provide key information in appropriate format. As I mentioned earlier, achieving the SDGs with their no man left behind focus will be a great challenge. But as is often the case with great challenges, they also offer great opportunities for new partnerships, new businesses, new policies, and new knowledge. As noted in SDG 17 and as reflected throughout the agenda of this conference, and indeed the composition of this panel, there is need for the adoption of a multi-stakeholder approach to achieving digital inclusion for all and the SDGs. When the public sector, intergovernment organizations, civil society, universities, and private sectors all do their part and forge partnerships that pull in the same direction, digital inclusion for all and reaching the SDGs will no longer be a vision, it will be a reality. It is now the task of this stellar panel, and I'd say an eclectic panel, to provide you with an accounting of how the challenges are being met in their different spheres. My job from here on is to call time, get them to answer the questions we consider important to you, and to make sure they keep you interested in what is being said. So allow me to introduce them in the order in which they will speak. There's Mr. Rahima Sanu. He is Telecommunication Development Bureau Director at the ITU, and he's going to be followed by Ms. Elizabeth Emmanuel, who is Program Director, Vision 2030 Planning Institute of Jamaica, and Mr. David Fazio, President of Helix Opportunity. He will close. And this is what is going to happen. They are going to be speaking for 3 minutes, each addressing the questions. From your perspective, what is the most important area of focus, or rather, with regard to the SDGs, from your perspective, what is the most important area of focus? And B, do you think that enough progress has been made to date? And if not, what are some of the prevalent barriers? So they will come and they will speak. I may like to give you just a brief synopsis of their, each of them, their bio. Mr. Snow is, as I've indicated, the director of the ITU Development Bureau. He draws on over 30 years of experience in the ICT sector at regional and international level. As head of ITU Regional Office for Africa and liaison officer to the African Union and the United Nations Economic Commission for Africa, UNCA, from 2000 to 2010, he worked to foster the growth of mobile telecommunication. I am sorry. Mr. Rahima Snow is not the panelist. The panelist, and I've been following my script and didn't remember, that Mr. Snow has been replaced by Bruno Ramos, who is the Regional Director, ITU America's Regional Office. And Bruno is a graduate in electronic engineering from the Escola Valencia, yep, I'm going to have to ask you to pronounce that, you know. But USP, he holds 2 master's degrees, one in telecoms regulation and the other in electronic engineering from the University of Brasilia. He has the career focus on telecommunication sector and information and communication technologies. He worked for companies such as Brasileira before joining the Brazilian regulatory body. Anatel, where he worked for over 16 years. And I won't read you everything, so I will close by saying that he is responsible for the direct supervision of all the work of ITU in the Americas, highlighting assistance and support to countries related to telecoms, ICT regulation, management and monitoring of the radio electronic spectrum, strengthening of telecom industry, and capacity building in telecoms, ICT in Americas, among others. So he is going to be our first speaker, and perhaps what I will do is come back and introduce the others. So I'm going to invite him to come now.
Right now it's working. Thank you so much for promoting me to the director of the BDT. It's not my time right now. By the way, just for your information, I think it's not very good, it's excellent news. 2.5 weeks ago, we had the Plenipotentiary Conference of the ITU in Dubai. And after 153 years, we right now have a woman as an elected official of the ITU. She will be my director. So the name is Doreen Bogdan-Martin. She works for the ITU for the past almost 30 years. She's very clever, hardworking, and not because it's very important to have a woman. It's a mark, I think, for the union in the, technology. In this technological area, we need more gender balance in our work. So I think it's a very important news that you must know. So I have 3 minutes, something. Okay. I make some notes to talk to you about the importance of SDGs, and I'd like just to do something very interactive with you. I put here 3 points, but I will talk more about the 4th. For me, the SDGs, the 16 objectives and plus 1 that you have the cooperation among the actors, but the 16 objectives you can, it's very difficult, but maybe sometimes you can put in 3 levels: end of poverty, combat climate change, including water, etc., and fight against injustice and inequality. I think is the 3 bases. And the 4th one, it's like I want to do an exercise with you right now. Could you please close your laptops? Please close the laptops. Everybody, close the laptops. Okay? Second step, put the mobile in the pocket. please. It's not too difficult. I think, yeah, you can do that. Put the mobile in the pocket. Put here, you can sit on it. It's okay. Doesn't matter. Okay, go ahead. Everybody, I know the guy over there is with the laptop open, please. The fourth is that ICT is not the objective. The objective of the SDG is us, people, to create a better life for us. If we don't see us in the center of the SDG, it will be very difficult to implement the objectives. This is very important. We are in the middle of an event of technology and how technology can include people. But we must sometimes think on us, people, and not only in technology, to be connected. You know, the word telecommunication is divided in two. Tel is far. Communication, to communicate. So communicate with someone that is far from you. This is philosophical. We are together here in this room. We need to communicate among us. It's not necessary even the small part tele, because we are together. So this is for me the most important thing about the SDGs, to put the human beings in the center of our thoughts and use the technology, use the ICTs just to create the conditions to give better life for us and not center in the technology. Maybe I don't know if I will survive, but how many lawyers is in the room? Please. Hey, only? So I will survive. Because sometimes, I'm sorry for that, but sometimes we think more in the process rather than in the final objective. I'm not talking about you guys, but sometimes it's like this. So SDGs, we have a lot of goals, we have a lot of topics, but the most important thing is to, in 2030, we implement the objectives. We have the expected results implemented. So, eliminate the poverty. Try to live in a sustainable world with the resources that we have, and fight against injustice and inequality. So, to go in on my presentation, nobody open the computer, please, huh? Just wait for the other guys. What we can do from the ITU to that? We can train people. It's impossible because ITU has only 700 people. It's a very small agency of the United Nations. We don't have budget to implement big changes, but we have the capacity, the intellectual capacity to train people, to train the policymakers that is going to implement and to make the difference. This is one thing that the ITU can do, and this event, this platform, put you together. So I think sometimes this most important thing to you is outside during the coffee break, that you can talk, you can share the experiences, you can go to and see what the others are doing. We can also fight against climate change with the recommendation, technical recommendations that we are working inside the ITU, especially in the sector of normalization, the T sector. Also, we can use all the radio aspects that we have in the ITU. ITU is very strong in managing the spectrum of radio frequencies in order to help in the fight against climate change and emergency communication. Because more and more we need technology to fight against the climate change and also to help people in the emergencies that we have through the road. Use the expertise in e-waste to have a sustainable world. Also work in the smart cities. In Latin America, in America, and also in the Caribbean, that is my region, so I know very well. I'm not talking about North America, it's slightly different. But in Latin America and the Caribbean, we have big cities, and we need to think about in how to have sustainable cities, how to create better life to people that live in the cities. And ICT can help a lot on that. Also, the inclusion, because after, as I said in my very short speech, after the third event in the Americas, Accessible Americas, we expanded the Accessible Americas to inclusion. Inclusion people in vulnerable situation. It's not only people with disabilities, because we started, we continue with that. But also we need to think about young women, young men, some people that is vulnerable, indigenous people, for instance, the elders. So a lot of people that need our help to be included in an inclusive society. And also, talking about capacity building, try to do something specifically for the people that work in the government. Why? Because the people that work in the government, they have a lot of power to change things. If they not change things, they can give directions to the private sector to do something. It's very important. The private sector is very important in a short and medium term. They are crucial. They have money and they have capacity, intelligence. But the government, they have to think in the long term. Talking with the Secretary General of the ITU, I don't know if someone, heard that it's not a new story, but talking with the SG, the Secretary General of the ITU, he's from China. And after 2012, 2013, I noticed that China was a little bit, outside the discussions about internet governance. They are more, they're doing some smooth approach, etc. And I asked him about what happened. And he said to me, why we need to think in 2020 if we are thinking in 2120? This is very important. The government should think not only in 15 years, they should think in 50 years, 60 years. It's like that for a country. For us, no. We are living, we are going to die, but the country will continue. We need to put the seeds right now just to create a new generation that will carry our objectives. And to finalize my 15 minutes that you gave it to me, I multiplied by 5. I think it's very important, one very important thing that we need to work is to increase the awareness of the SDGs. I don't know, but I talk a lot with people, and sometimes they even do not know what SDGs are. And this is a reality, guys. This is a reality. So we need to, even I don't know if you know. Oh, it's a good question. May I ask you if you know what is SDGs? Have you entered in the UN website once? Who entered once? So homework for you today. Please enter in the UN website of the SDGs and try to see and try to look at the objectives. So to finalize, try to promote the SDGs, try to promote the SDGs inside your countries, try to promote the objectives of the SDGs, and also to use the ICTs in order to help the implementation of the SDGs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That extended 3 minutes. Ms. Elizabeth Emmanuel is Program Director and Consultant with Vision 2030, Jamaica Secretariat at the Planning Institute of Jamaica. She was part of a small team that led the development of the country's first long-term national development plan, known as Vision 2030 Jamaica, and now leads a team that is monitoring and evaluating the implementation of the plan. She has many successes, has worked extensively with development partners, including the World Bank, IFC, UNECLAC, UNEP, UNDP, and with countries such as the Bahamas, Montserrat, Grenada, St. Lucia, Guyana, Suriname, and Aruba. She holds a BSc in Economics and Mathematics and MSc in Development with emphasis on environmental and health economics, and postgraduate diplomas in Communication, Public Sector Management, Policy Analyst, and Strategic Planning. She also lectures at the University of the West Indies. So there's no better person to tell us about what has been happening in Jamaica than Ms. Emmanuel. Thank you.
All. And in the spirit of equality and the SDGs, I hope I will get a little more than 3 minutes. So today, I would like to speak with you or share with you Jamaica's experience with the Sustainable Development Goals. So I would focus on the role of ICTs in advancing sustainable prosperity for Jamaicans and the Jamaica we want by 2030. As a country, we continue to actively embrace, as you have heard this morning today, information and communication technologies as a key driver towards advancing the sustainable prosperity for all in our country. Vision 2030 Jamaica is our country's first long-term national development plan and provides a comprehensive planning framework in which the economic, social, environmental, and governance aspects of national development are integrated. And for those of you who did not raise your hands about the SDGs, note that the SDGs embody economic, social, environmental, and governance goals. They are global goals around these 4 areas organized across 16 goals and 1 goal focusing on partnership. Our plan, the plan Vision 2030 Jamaica, which was approved by Cabinet, by Parliament in 2009 is intended to put Jamaica in a position to achieve developed country status by 2030 and is based on a national vision, Jamaica, the place of choice. Maybe I should ask all Jamaicans in the room to just say it. Share it with your counterparts. Jamaica. It's more exciting than they have said it, so I'll say it for you. So they don't seem to be embracing it. Jamaica, the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. So essentially, this National Development Plan is built around a fundamental notion of creating the necessary conditions to ensure a prosperous and secure future for all Jamaicans. And when we say all, we're also referring to persons with different abilities, persons living with disabilities, and importantly for Jamaica, we speak a lot globally about women and girls, but for Jamaica, we also need to speak about what we refer to as unattached youth and our young males. So this plan calls for a transformation of our country from a middle-income developing country to one which can afford all its citizens a high quality of life and world-class standards in areas such as education, healthcare, social protection, access to environmental goods and services such as clean air, water, reduction and elimination of poverty. And just by saying that, you can begin to see how the Sustainable Development Goals fit into this. Vision 2030 Jamaica serves as the axis around which the SDGs will be advanced in Jamaica. And you sit there and you may say, but how come, how so? How will our development plan ensure that we leave no one behind? And is it designed to do this? What progress has been made with respect to the SDGs? One could say we were sort of lucky, one could say we were psychic, one could say we were strategic. But it turns out that the Vision 2030 Jamaica National Development Plan served as one of the foundation documents on which the SDGs were designed. So Jamaica, you can give yourself a clap here. So everything I've mentioned, from education to health and so on, everything that are contained in those SDGs are also contained in our National Development Plan. So a document, a roadmap for SDG implementation in Jamaica, which was based on an assessment of Jamaica's readiness to advance the SDGs and undertaken not by us, but by the United Nations Development Programme and not UNDP Jamaica, identified Vision 2030 Jamaica and specifically the implementation plan that accompanies that National Development Plan, known as the Medium-Term Socio-Economic Policy Framework, which changes every 3 years. So the MTF is the vehicle for implementation of the global agenda here in Jamaica. And interestingly, what that study did, and at that time, there was no other country that had that close alignment. So the UN has been going around country to country looking to see what frameworks exist to enable countries to advance the SDGs locally within country. And we're at the top of the class. The roadmap states that there's a 91% alignment between Vision 2030 Jamaica and the global agenda, the SDGs. So basically what it was saying is that if we did nothing else but implement Vision 2030 Jamaica, we as a country would play our part in advancing a world where no one is left behind, where we focus, and I'll give you a little teaching here, the SDGs focus on something called 5 Ps: people, prosperity, planet, partnership, and peace. Okay? So those are the 5 Ps. So for Jamaica, we are continuing to mainstream the SDGs within our National Development Plan, our dynamic medium-term framework, which we have just completed, our 4th medium-term framework, which is the implementation framework covering 2018 to 2021, would actually address that 9% that was not aligned, which, for example, included the blue economy. So we are going to be implementing projects in the next 3 years that will take into account the blue economy. ICTs within Vision 2030 Jamaica plays a fundamental role, because it is clear to all of us and all of you here, and I don't have to say much, that ICTs allow us to add value to the lives that we actually live. ICT for us across the world has become for us a way of life, and right here in Jamaica, it has emerged as one of the more visible representations of modern development, profoundly influencing all aspects of our life. In fact, for us, it is providing us with a richer and more meaningful life, and nationally advancing our economic growth trajectory and creating a more inclusive and sustainable future for all of us. We know that many of our international indices and indicators related to access, affordability, institutional efficiency, sustainability, and ICT applications show that Jamaica has generally achieved a position midway among the nations of the world in the development of the ICT sector. And we know that this ICT sector has distinct advantages in increasing the contribution of to our national development goals. I'll take the opportunity very quickly and mention some of the things that we have actually done with respect to ICTs. For example, the Minister mentioned shortly the broadband connections in many of our educational institutions, and we're also improving ICT infrastructure in many of these institutions. And I think it's important for us to look at the whole notion of government effectiveness and efficiency. And the recently launched last year, the GOJ portal, which brings all the services of government, approximately 200 services in one place, is powerful and dynamic for public sector effectiveness, and we have already begun seeing improvements in government efficiency. Our BPO sector, for example, is one of the fastest growing industries and has contributed in excess of US $400 million to our economy in 2017, accounting for over 26,000 jobs and projecting to add at least 5,000 more by 2019. In fact, the city of Kingston was named the Nearshore City of the Year for its performance in business process outsourcing. It received this accolade this year at the Nexus Illuminate Awards hosted by the Nearshore Americas in San Francisco, and it recognized Jamaica as one of the leading countries in the Caribbean and Latin America for this. We are rolling out community access points to facilitate communities, including many of our rural communities, to have access to Wi-Fi. We have our public Wi-Fi program, and in keeping with our National Disability Act, the government continues to provide the University of the West Indies, for example, with relevant hardware such as specialized software, JAWS and Dragon Naturally Speaking, that will enable tertiary and vocational students to do the necessary research, those living with disabilities. In Vision 2030, we treat ICT in a very special way. It's very unique due to the recognition that it plays a deep yet cross-cutting role in national development, but it is also envisaged as a key industry in and of itself. Through our implementation framework, which is the MTF, we continue to ensure that the enabling environment is provided for the ICT sector, and we are advancing key strategies for developing this advanced ICT industry that we want as a means of enhancing our global competitiveness on one hand and ensuring that we create a society where no one is left behind. As the Minister said this morning, in the next 3 years, we'll be focusing very much on the policy and regulatory framework for ICT. The whole issue of use of free and open software is also within the MTF. The development of more community access points and community multimedia centers. We're looking at the education and skills capacity of our country. We're also looking at the full integration of ICT into teaching and learning processes. We're using ICT more and more in our health sector, and also importantly in e-government services. So you see that for Jamaica, our ICT sector very much is integrated within our country's national development plan. It is embedded across all sectors of our society, and it is providing a fundamental pathway to ensure that we make Jamaica, and you could say it now, I'm finished, this place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business, and as a result, commit to the global agenda of leaving no one behind in the development space. Thank you.
Very much, Elizabeth, for that very comprehensive report on what we're doing. So we have had something of a multilateral perspective from the ITU rep. We have had the national picture, and Mr. David Fazio is going to, I suspect he's going to tell us something about some of the business opportunities, some of what is happening with the private sector in driving these goals. Now, Mr. Fazio has a compelling story. He's a survivor of a traumatic brain injury from a hemorrhagic stroke in 1996, which left him paralyzed on the entire left half of his body, blind in the left half of each eye, with extreme short-term memory loss and cognitive impairments. He has since regained much of his mobility and founded Helix Opportunity, a business-related disability services consulting firm. He is the exclusive provider of user experience research and development for some of the most iconic international brand rank in the Fortune 100. His work provides a more inclusive experience to the 8 million global consumers with $8 trillion. Okay, so it's more inclusive experience to $8 trillion global consumers with disabilities, demographic across digital properties in physical environment, and with products and services of all types. He tells me that this is a subject that he could go on, speak on forever, but we hope that he'll contain himself. We're going to invite him to come and speak to his set of issues. Thank you.
Check. Okay. So keeping in line with the theme of this afternoon, I think we all can pretty much agree that infrastructure and access to technology is a critical issue, especially in this region at this point in time. One of the most important things about infrastructure and technology is when you provide people with disabilities access to high-speed internet and the means to exploit that internet, they create the solutions that they need themselves for themselves, and it has wide-ranging benefits to everyone. You can take high-speed internet, for instance. It's not only important for people with disabilities to access educational tools across other countries, like Brazil, Colombia, Jamaica may not have accessible educational content ready for people with disabilities to learn from, but other countries do. So if a person with a disability has access to high-speed internet and a computer, they can do online learning in other countries and take that home or learn on their own pace, at their own rate, on their own terms. And with that knowledge, they can then empower themselves to participate more in the economy. You have countries like Kenya that had a public-private partnership when M-Pesa took over in 2007 and was an economic boom for the country. The government recognized it, and they partnered with the private industry to lay in fiber optic lines to give everybody access to the internet. It not only drove down costs and more people were able to get online, it also created a business community where they could be more competitive and compete more in the global market. And it also brought the internet out to rural areas of the country where you've now got goat herders, sheep herders, creating their own mobile apps to keep track of their sheep. A blind man in Kenya found ways to exploit accessible technologies on his cell phone to start his own business, his own mobile payment shop where he's taking in money, processing it, and divvying it out to customers. So access to technology and access to high-speed internet has multiple benefits to multiple people across a wide range of intersectional areas. And without it, people with disabilities are never going to be, they're never going to be able to lift up their economic situation. And that's one of the most important things about the SDGs. And I can also give you an example in the United States. You've got a young girl by the name of Megan Bumgars. She is an individual with Down syndrome. And as a teen, she started these YouTube videos of something about don't limit me. Just because I'm disabled, don't limit my education. The YouTube videos went viral. She became famous, and now she has her own online jewelry store. So you've got a young girl with, well, she's a young woman now, with Down syndrome who created her own small business selling online because she has access to high-speed internet and technology. So I was speaking to some colleagues from Jamaica about this issue earlier, and they mentioned the affordability issue. Well, you've got organizations like Fuse Project that have created $100 laptops for communities in Africa that are extremely durable because it's for rural communities, but they have the same type of power necessary to exploit the internet and for people to learn on and engage and stuff like that, and it can be built for $100. For my session tomorrow, I did some research and I identified $95 billion in low-interest lending and grant monies available to any country that wants to take on initiatives like this. So the money's out there, the resources are out there. We just need to really focus on it, put plans together, and make it happen. I guess I'm the only short one. But I mean, if you want more examples, you know, there's these two individuals in Australia who are blind that created a free screen reader called Non-Visual Desktop Access, which is the same screen reader that the blind Kenyan uses to do his M-Pesa business. So it's pretty amazing what people can do, you know, with the right access.
Thank you very much, David. We have had presentations from all our panelists. I'm going to be asking them a couple of questions, and some of those questions they have already touched on the answers to, but perhaps they can expand on them. Perhaps I might begin by picking on you, Elizabeth. If you might tell us how important do you think the matter of leadership is in achieving the objectives of the SDGs. Do you share the view that it is a critical component?
Yes, I do. Definitely, leadership is a critical component. And I will draw on Vision 2030 Jamaica. One of the things that makes Vision 2030 Jamaica a best practice globally is because of the leadership component of the plan. In that, the plan has what we refer to as bipartisan support. Many countries come to us and ask us, how were you able to do it? How were you able to ensure that with successive governments, this plan has continues to be implemented? So leadership and mature leadership, as we have here in Jamaica, has played a fundamental role in the advancement of our country's development and the Jamaica we want by 2030. And certainly that needs to happen as well for the SDGs. Our alignment with the SDGs did not happen by chance. We have political leadership whereby this is something that we have alignment with the SDGs as part of our global commitment, but it's also something that the government, for example, requires reporting on. So we will be reporting through Vision 2030 on how well we are aligning the SDGs, how well we are meeting the targets and the indicators and so on set. So leadership, not just at the political level, but at all levels, become very important. You yourself as a leader, Mr. Hewitt of OUR, spoke in your opening remarks of how the OUR is taking on the SDGs. So certainly you're taking on what is happening nationally, but looking at how, as the OUR and within your own specific mandate, you are attempting to achieve the vision of the OUR, but aligning that with SDGs to contribute to what we're doing nationally. So you see it is spread throughout, and we cannot leave out our civil society organizations or our private sector in the advancement of the SDGs.
Thank you, and thank you for that kind reference to the OUR as well. I'm happy I didn't cut you off earlier then. Do you have anything to add to this, Bruno?
Yeah, very, very quickly. As I said in the beginning, it's for me, the implementation and also the discussions nationally on the implementation of the SDGs, for me, is more centered in the federal government. So we need to work trying to go down just to municipalities and even to group of communities. I think it's very important. If, for sure, if you have the discussions in the federal government, it's essential leadership, so they're going to guide the country. But for me, it's not only top-down. You need to use the approach bottom-up also, just to create the understanding of the SDGs and also to guide the actions of each institution and how to reach the goals in 2030. So we need to go down, we need to go to the municipalities, and we need to use the NGOs to try to talk and try to, increase the awareness of the SDGs in the whole country.
David?
Yeah, I agree with Bruno. The federal government, I believe, and this is what happens in the U.S. and other governments, need to take the lead on this, but they also need to engage the business community and the individuals within the communities. But one of the things that needs to happen is it needs to not be a conversation solely about this is a human right, this is a civil right. Businesses, for-profit businesses, they're not in the business of an NGO. They're not in the business of adhering to civil rights. That's reality. So it needs to be a business case to them. The proper data needs to be collected on how this is going to benefit them and what benefits they're going to get out of it, and it needs to be communicated to them. In the United States, we've kind of created this adversarial relationship between the disability community, consumers with disabilities, and the business community. So our business community seems to think that people with disabilities are only out to go to their businesses to look for infractions in law and sue them. That's because once these laws were passed, all of our chambers of commerce and all of our business-related organizations, the only type of communication that they send out to these businesses is, this is how to protect yourself from a lawsuit. This is how to be compliant with the law. Businesses don't want to hear about laws over and over and over again, but if they would show up and say, here's $8 trillion, I tell you the number, $8 trillion, and I saw your head spin a minute ago. So you tell a business, here's $8 trillion, and guess what? Less than 10% of companies around the world are engaging this market. If you tell them $65 billion were spent in airfare alone over the last 2 years of people with disabilities, largely of it, most of it inaccessible, ask them, were they coming to your business? Were they coming to your country? Did you see them? If they say no, say, why not? Shouldn't they come here? Give them a reason to come here. These are all business cases that people aren't communicating. They're just saying it's a civil right, it's a human right. Yeah, but for a business owner, that doesn't translate. So the federal government needs to lead, but also needs to communicate the right data and sets of information to the business community and the private sector to get them really engaged in it and really want to move forward with these things.
Bruno, one of the things I was trying to get a sense from your own presentation is, how convinced are you that there is sufficient buy-in all around the world in terms of pushing the SDGs? And a related question to that then is therefore, what are your thoughts on what mechanisms or managerial approach need to be taken to move from policy to action? In terms of, I think we have had an enumeration of some of the initiatives that have been taken, but perhaps from an ITU perspective, you might give us an indication of your assessment of the commitment to the SDGs, and also talk a little about some of the mechanisms through which you can get to them.
So very quickly, so the ITU is the United Nations agency related to ICTs. So For me, it's for sure there are a lot of other possibilities, but I will focus on the ICTs. And each one of the SDGs, you can use the ICTs just to transform and to go from the theoretical part to the real world. And why? Because it's impossible to stop development of technology. So we are living in a world of change. So we are living that. Probably in the future, our decade will be 2 paragraphs in a book of history. So we are going to be there, 2 paragraphs, a small paragraph between 2000 and 2020. So, but ICT can really, be used to implement something and try to come from the public policy that a government is built, and using the ICT, for instance, in the education, smart cities, IoT, Internet of Things, try to collect data in order to use the data and then big data just to increase the way that you deliver services and products to the communities, e-health, etc., etc. So we use technology to go from the public policy that is very theoretical to the practical way.
Elizabeth, can I get you to weigh in on the kind of policy consideration that you think should be contemplated or undertaken by countries organizing to ensure digital inclusion, especially to special groups, youth, persons with disabilities, women and girls in ICT, among others? I suspect that it may be something that Bruno might want to follow up on as well.
I think the whole area of ICTs provide unique opportunities for all groups, and I think we need to look across our development frame and determine where, for example, ICTs will play a fundamental role. If I take on what Bruno had said just now in terms of the overarching policy, in terms of the overarching policy framework, we need to look, for example, within groups such as in Jamaica in terms of unattached youth. Is there something that the ICT sector can support to support unattached youth moving out of criminal activities and so on? And there are many, what is required is a sort of assessment of where we can apply ICTs. And I think for Jamaica, which in terms of what I can speak of, there are many areas in which we're looking at the application of ICTs for varying and different groups. So whilst we may not necessarily have a huge problem with girls and women, we have a problem with unattached youth and young males who, due to the fact that they are unattached, they end up in criminal activities. So looking, for example, at that kind of information and data, and then determining the role of ICT to move them out of that sort of life. And we do that through, for example, our monitoring and evaluation framework and our assessment on how we're doing with respect to Vision 2030 Jamaica. So we're able to pick up the areas that are lagging. So the next step then is working with particular ministries, departments, and agencies, such as your ministry that we have done recently, in determining what are some of the programs that we could put in place within the ICT sector to support some of these vulnerable groups. In terms of the elderly, for example, we are a population where non-communicable diseases, globally it's happening, non-communicable diseases are on the rise, but we are in a space where, as a country, we're living longer, so our life expectancy at birth is increasing, but the quality of our life is decreasing. So looking, for example, at how we use ICTs within the health sector to better manage non-communicable diseases is something that we have on the agenda. So really looking at our development results, using data effectively to determine how, for example, we can infuse ICTs to advance or to better the outcomes we want within our development.
You know, listening to you, you made the point that perhaps there needs to be a new perspective on how we view digital inclusion by, say, persons with disabilities or minority groups, etc., etc. You have suggested that there has been a kind of rights-based approach, but you are proposing a more economic-driven approach.
Absolutely.
You want to say a little more on that?
Absolutely, I am. So I'll give you an example. So a lot of companies in the United States, they're multinational companies, they say they believe in accessibility. They say it's the right thing to do. They say, you know, they want everyone to have access to their goods and their services. However, when working with clients and stuff like that, I can tell you from personal experience, when it gets down to the boardroom and the directors of accessibility are sitting in front of their product owners and their program managers, it all comes down to economics. It's all economical. And you can't really fault businesses for that because that's their purpose for existing. Their purpose for existing isn't to serve one community. It's to serve all communities in the best way that they can. And if serving one community isn't economically feasible for them at that point, then it's hard for them to really justify it, right? So one of my clients actually asked me to create a business case for disability for their designers and stuff like that. And they identified several countries in the world that they wanted me to look at. One of them was Hong Kong. So I'm going through all this research to find out what is the business case in Hong Kong. And all I get is poverty and disease reports. People with disabilities aren't participating in the economy. They're not doing this. They're this poor. They're this, that. But after reading all that information and doing some basic math, I found out there's $45 million in Hong Kong dollars in disposable income for people with disabilities in that region because of all of the government services available to them. They have no economic obligations. And they have $45 million that they're not spending in the economy because where are they going to spend it? It's inaccessible. You know, so if they were to just put that in the front, if there's $45 million in disposable income, then companies would go, oh, hey, I want to target that. This is worth it for me to move forward on this.
Perhaps a final question that I'd like to go around for the panel is that a look at the world today, we see that there is this growing interest in nationalism, at least in some parts. Do you think that this something of a counter trend is going to pose a problem to the achievement of the SDGs, to the achievement of digital inclusion? How much of a threat is this really?
I think that the whole rise in nationalism will not support the achievement of the SDGs. The reason the SDGs have come about is to look more at equality and equity within and among states. So pursuing to get to that space where we're looking at people, planet, prosperity, partnership, and so on, a strong focus on just pure nationalism will not allow us to achieve a world in which no one is left behind. It requires as nations that we cooperate with one another, that we work together, that we build on best practices of nations, that we see people as one. We're all people. And the whole notion of marginalized groups and so on. You spoke, Mr. Ramos, about climate change, and climate change would also create a new type of migrant, for example. So how do we take into account the needs of all? So nationalism in and of itself, I do not believe will contribute to that better world that we want by 2030.
Yeah, fully agree. So I fully agree. I think it's we are living in some, how can I say that in good words? We are living in tough times. And if you go to one of the SDGs that we need to live in a sustainable world, we are talking about world. We are not talking about specifically one specific region. And also, if you change something in a part of the world, you are imposing this change for the rest of the humanity. So this is a kind of a change of mentality for me. It's not only to implement practical things, but we need to change our mentality in how we see the other human being that is besides us. I think it is, and it is very difficult. It is very difficult. I don't know how, but sometimes if you start in the small things, like this event, so we can create some kind of mass, and maybe we can change something. I think it's important just to keep trying to change this mentality and think globally, to live all together in the same world.
Are you asking me to talk about nationalism? Oh, geez. I think it's good for countries to have pride in, their people and their culture, but I also think we need to have national cooperation. So there's nothing wrong with having pride in what you produce and what is unique and rich about your heritage and your culture, but countries need to cooperate with one another because we do live in a global world. We do travel across borders very frequently, and so I'm going to keep going back to the disability community because it's what I am and what I do. But people with disabilities are traveling more and more to other countries. And to speak about national cooperation, you have like the EU, the European Union. You can travel very easily throughout the EU if you're a person with a disability because of all of the transferring, amenities that people with disabilities, enjoy because of laws and things like that. But when a person with a disability travels from the U.S. to, say, Mexico or anywhere down, in the Americas, everything's so different that we kind of don't know what to expect. And, there's no national cooperation amongst, all the regions or whatever so that we can travel more easily. I used to take my dog with me everywhere I went. In the Mexico Americas, I had my service dog with me. And getting into Mexico was a very different experience than it was going into, say, Canada or Peru. And without being able to predict or plan for that experience, it either deters me from it or it ruins it for me. So yeah, there does need to be a lot of national cooperation. Yeah.
May I add 2 seconds? Sure. I don't know if you've heard about flying rivers. No? Flying rivers. It's I read, I think 3 or 4 months ago. I didn't know about it because if you think it's a nationalism, etc., and also inside a country, you can have different views. For instance, my country, I'm from Brazil. Brazil is a continental country. So the south part, sometimes no. So they have a lot of critics about the Amazon part. So they don't know, it's very far. And you know what happened in Amazon? The water there evaporate. And with this, they migrate the water due to the south of the country, and there they can have rain just to have, the agriculture. This is a very interesting ecosystem that evaporate the water in the Amazon, go through the whole continent, and have rain in the south. So if the south part of the country say, it doesn't matter about Amazon, it's too far. So why I'm, okay, so you can do whatever you want there, I have to take care about my small micro ecosystem here. Completely wrong. Completely wrong. So if you don't care about the whole planet, I'm talking about my country because I can. I'm not talking about other countries. But as a Brazilian, I can talk about it. So, and I know that in the south part of the country, they don't care about Amazon, but Amazon is, saving them because of the rain. Just to give you a very practical example about that we are linked in this planet. So it's impossible just to think. I agree with you about national cooperation, but I think working for the United Nations, I think we need to go further. We need to go further. We need to think more as human beings and try to eliminate this history of problems that we have. I'm not naive that saying everything is going to change in 30 seconds. But we need to try to discuss these kind of things.
I agree 100%. And one thing I just wanted to kind of dial back to is that goes back to what I was saying about communicating the right information. So that's back to the economic, development standpoint. Why is the Amazon important to the people in the South? If you're telling them it's important because they have rights, what do those rights matter to the people in the South if they don't have the Amazon? And if they know why it should matter to them, then we wouldn't have as many disagreements. So we need to really think long and hard about the information we're collecting and the information we're communicating to other people. Is it the right form of communication? If I'm going to do business in Mexico, I'm not going to speak English to people in Mexico, right? I should be speaking Spanish. Otherwise, what kind of business am I doing? So,
thank you. Perhaps, I don't know if there is anybody with one burning question from the audience. We want to wrap up this session now, but just... No? Well, in that case, I'd like to thank our panelists. I'd like to thank Elizabeth. We'd like to thank Bruno and David for their contribution to this discussion. I'm going to invite Bruno to remain with me. And I trust that Brahima is back in the room. We'd like to invite him to join us up here if he is. Thank you. Thank you very much. Little bit of a change in schedule again. We're going to have the coffee break now for 15 minutes. And I'm going to ask you to come back in quickly after that 15 minutes is over so that we can resume and try to get through the rest of the afternoon session. Thank you very much.
Try and try, try and try. You'll succeed at last. I know it. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want, but you must try, try and try, try and try. You'll succeed at last. Mhm. Persecution you must bear. Win and lose, you've got to get your share. Got your mind set on a dream. You can get it, no hard it may seem now. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want. You can get it if you really want, but you must try, try and try, try and try. You'll succeed at last. I know it. Listen. Rome was not built in a day. Opposition will come your way. But the hotter the battle you see, it's the sweeter the victory now. You can get it if you really
find the glass at the bottom. Like
Sounds so nice it just put me in a vibe. Right now the place to come alive. The woman them a dance and go and right. Let me tell you now, it gives me that good feeling. Oh yes, it gives me that good feeling. Oh, it gives me that good feeling. The way I feel so nice, I cannot think of it. All I feel is love, love, love. I wanna celebrate. This is what we do every night. String up the sound, our only vibe. People in the streets feeling fine. Nothing's better than this.
hard time remembering that, but I'm going to try my best. All right. You are actually, I think, third in line. Okay. Number three. Okay. All right. Okay. Please. Sit.
Just came to make sure you're okay.
I hope so.
Okay, cool.
It
The
has been
session
a-
is over. Wow.
Yes,
And I'm not
imagine.
worried about how you're going to drive home in the night.
And I tell you.
And is you alone driving home? Your husband out here?
No.
All
I'm
right.
going to
So you just have to leave right after this?
right after
You are your partner. You are your
everything.
partner.
Everything.
Oh, and you have checked out.
Everything.
Oh, so you have your bag with me.
In the car.
So when you leave, you're just going to
There you go. And I have to go to the office, believe it or not.
after the office tonight? Are you serious? It's going to take you 2 hours to get there, so you're not going to get
I'm going to take my time. No, I'm going to
it's
take
like
my
8 o'clock.
Panel all set?
Yes.
All right.
I have one person, two person.
Okay, they're coming. Huh?
Yes.
All right. So I'm going to introduce the video thing while you're here,
Sure.
and then after that you flow right into it.
Okay. Hold on. She did what she did in the beginning. And if you notice, a lot of the dignitaries here. So I think it's only Joaquin in the room now. But I don't see Mr. Bruno.
Bruno Ramos.
Yeah, he's not
There
here.
he is.
He's there?
There he is.
Okay, so still acknowledge him.
Right.
All
All
right.
right. So
All right.
we,
So you want me to sit down until you're ready for me?
yeah.
Right, I will leave my papers there, so don't take them up
don't.
now.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, if you could move quickly to your seats so that we can get going again. And the sooner you do that, the quicker we'll be able to get out of here and you can go on to whatever you plan for the after. Oh, we're actually having cocktails this evening, I think, right? Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we have two final activities for this afternoon. There is going to be a video presentation and address by Professor Anthony Clayton. So we're going to ask you to sit back and watch that presentation, and immediately following that, there is going to be a panel on Caribbean projects and initiative for digital inclusion, and that panel will be moderated by Ms. Maria Myers Hamilton, who is the Managing Director, Spectrum Management Authority of Jamaica. So she will come after that and introduce her panel and take you through the rest of the afternoon. Thank you very much.
Good day, everybody. I'm very pleased to be at this very important ITU conference on the issues we have with accessibility and the new challenges that we have to face in ensuring that everybody can make the transition to a fully digital economy and society. My name is Professor Anthony Clayton. I'm the chairman of the Broadcasting Commission of Jamaica. I'm going to be talking a little bit about the issues of digital exclusion as we see them, because they have changed very significantly over the last few years. Let's start by thinking about what the problem really is. Clearly, there are still significant differences in levels of access to communication technologies between different parts of the world, between different regions within countries. And the factors that tend to be good predictors of exclusion include whether people live in rural or urban areas, age, and income. Now, these factors tend to cluster so that the problems tend to be concentrated. Elderly people with limited education, low incomes in poor areas and developing economies are the group that is most likely to have least levels of access to modern ICTs. Now, governments always have to think about what actions they should, if any, take about particular problems. Governments always have insufficient resources, so they have to make difficult choices as to what their priorities should be. So the key questions that we have to ask is how big a problem digital exclusion really is. Is it getting bigger or smaller? Do we need to do anything about it, or will it eventually disappear by itself? There are three issues that we have to address in a little bit more detail. There's levels of availability, there's the affordability of access, because having access to something is only the first step, you have to be able to afford it, and there's digital literacy, technological literacy. You have to know how to use the technology to use it to best effect. So let's look briefly at all three of these. Availability is a rapidly disappearing problem. If I could just share a couple of numbers with you. In 2016, it was less than 46% of total world population had internet access. 2 years later, that was up by about another 10%. That is a problem which is disappearing very rapidly. And it's disappearing due to rapidly falling costs and dissemination of advanced technologies, even into the poorest countries of the world. So this is a problem which is becoming less salient over time. Where there are still remaining problems, in fact, you quite often find that this is not a result of the lack of access to technology as such. It's actually unhelpful government policy, like, for example, allowing inefficient telecommunications monopolies to remain in place and to have closed markets and not open this up to challenge. And quite often that turns out to be the primary cause of low levels of digital access. But this is simply a change in government policy that's required. It's not an issue with access to technology per se. In Jamaica, when we took stock a couple of years ago, we found that there was an issue with levels of access to modern communications. We found that for historical reasons, we still had 49 cable operators, which is a very large number for a small country. Many of them were not profitable, offering very limited service, and were often not in compliance with regulatory rules. And these operated in a total of 243 zones, which is an extremely large number. And the zoning system was created largely for historical reasons, which are no longer relevant. And what we realized is that these two factors, which were really the result of earlier decisions made by the government, are actually now preventing the rollout of better service in Jamaica. We realized that what we needed was to encourage the sector to go through a process of rationalization so that we ended up with fewer, stronger, better capitalized, better resourced, and operators with more capital reserves so that they could invest in technology and roll out better services. We took a number of steps in this regard. We moved from a one-size-fits-all fee system to a three-tier system. Now, what we're going to be able to do is offer some of the marginal operators a time-limited period of zero fees. This is not free money. This is to give them allow them to invest in technology. It's also to make them more attractive partners in mergers and acquisitions so that we end up with a smaller number of better capitalized operators. And we're reducing the number of zones to about 10% of the original total. This means that every zone that we have in Jamaica will now be economically viable for service, for largely geographical but also social reasons. Because many of our existing zones are not attractive to operators. So we have a situation now where some zones are very poorly served, but there's nothing there that would attract a larger operator. By reducing the number of zones, we're going to make each zone an attractive economic proposition. This will also help us end up with a smaller number of larger, better resourced operators delivering much better service to the public. With regard to affordability, this issue too is becoming much less problematic over time, largely because what is called Moore's Law still works. The cost of a given unit of processing power approximately halves every 18 to 36 months. That means that every time you upgrade or change out your equipment, your cell phone, your tablet, whatever, and you do so every year and a half, 2 years, 3 years, you're getting approximately double the processing power each time you change. It means that affordability is becoming less and less of a problem. It's also becoming less of a problem for another reason entirely, which is that global poverty is largely disappearing. In 1999, something like 20% of humanity was classed as poor. That was 1.7 billion people. By 2013, this is only 14 years later, that was down to just 11% of the population, 767 million people. And as of earlier this year, it's down to about 600 million. This is a problem which is disappearing really very quickly, largely as a result of the development of countries like China and India. But there's actually about 40 or 50 other countries in that group which are now developing very rapidly. Poverty within a lifetime is going to become largely a thing of the past. So if affordability is no longer an issue, that leaves us with the third factor, which is digital literacy. And this may come as a surprise to many people, turned out to be the single most effective impediment. When we think of technology, we do tend to think of the actual physical piece of hardware. That's only one element. Your physical equipment is always embedded in a context of knowledge. You have to know how to use it, maintain it, capitalize it, leverage it for actual business or personal, financial, whatever reasons. The situation that we have now is that we already have over 100% smartphone penetration, well, mobile phone penetration, but most of those now are smartphones. And there are practically zero young people in this country who are not fluent cell phone users. But if you look at the actual usage pattern, they're mainly using them for chatting, social media, and entertainment. There's not many people in this country who are using, for example, utilizing the fact that you can now do a full degree at MIT or other prestigious universities online, and most of that material is available for free. But they're not using it to improve themselves or for educational purposes. They're using it largely for social purposes. So we have a situation where using the internet to its full potential for education and new modes of work is something that hasn't yet really spread throughout the population. And as the OECD pointed out in a recent report, the gaps that define the learning digital divide are as important as the gaps in access to the technology itself. So what we realized is that it is actually really the third variable, the one that's had least attention, which is actually now the most problematic. This is the issue of low levels of digital literacy. All the previous attempts to bridge the digital divide have really focused on hardware, for example, extending provision of broadband. And we do have still got some issues in that regard in this country. We're about to make a transition to a fully digital television service. And we're looking at transition fixes, like, for example, making affordable set-top boxes available to people who still use the old analog televisions, and that's still probably about 45% of the consumers. But it's not really a hardware issue any longer. It's really about lack of digital literacy. That's the most effective impediment to the transition to a digital economy. All citizens need to know not just how to switch on the phone, but actually how to access and leverage internet-based resources. The government has to do a lot more in this regard. The government can actually help to facilitate this change by providing a lot more services, reliable services, via user-friendly sites. This is still, by and large, not the case in this country. So the government has to do more and do better in this regard. The private sector have done very little so far in terms of business-to-consumer commerce, but the problems are the lack of security. Now, those concerns are real. We have major challenges with cyber fraud and card skimmers and so forth in this country. And citizens report that they're very unlikely to migrate unless they feel that the environment is safe. But here it is, in fact, the finance companies and the banks who have to do more to ensure that electronic transactions are secure if we want to make this transition to a fully digital economy. And the Broadcasting Commission is doing a great deal of work now in this area. We've developed a number of media literacy programs and digital awareness programs. In fact, we recently won 2 International Muse Creative Awards for our digital literacy advertisements. And these are designed to be very accessible and to be seen by the people who the particular demographic that we actually need to reach. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope that gives you some idea of how we see the challenges which have evolved over the last couple of years, where we think the issue now is, and what we're currently doing about it. I wish you a very successful conference. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.
Good afternoon, everyone. Ms. Joaquim Murray, Permanent Secretary in the Ministry of Science and Technology, Mr. Bruno Ramos, Director, Regional Office, ITU, heads of agencies and private sector entities, both international and local, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to session 2. We're going to do things a little bit different. I'm going to introduce in order how my panelists will present, but at the end of it, I would like to engage you, my audience, to invite you to ask questions, to probe and to find out if we are really hitting the road. Are we really bridging that digital divide? We know without a doubt, based on what has presented, my eyes were open, especially to what was presented this morning when you think of the digital divide. We have a different perspective. Not only is it gender related, but it's looking at everybody, every facet. And truly, we need to work together, as in the words of Bruno Ramos, to create a better life for all of us, not just some. So without a doubt, more needs to be done. and the barriers to access to education and skills, as well as ingrained social, cultural biases, are driving this digital divide. We know this. Academia plays a very crucial role, and I'm happy to see persons from academia here, because I do believe the mindset is a cultural shift and will take a time where we have to educate our people in this new way of thinking. Now, my esteemed panel is going to help me go through this presentation or this session. We're going to start with Mr. Robert Lawrence. He's a chairman of the Universal Service Fund in Jamaica. And then we're going to have Trevor Pravat. He's a consultant with the Caribbean Telecom Union out of Trinidad and Tobago. Then we're going to have Ana Maris Solar Zano, Deputy General Director of Jovan Club Cuba. And finally, Christina Burke Medaford from the Universal Service Fund Administrator, National Telecommunications Regulation Commission for Grenada. I would like you to warmly welcome them as they proceed to the podium to do their presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, first of all, I must welcome you and to beautiful Jamaica. Our moderator did the appropriate protocol, so I'll just get straight to it. Coming this far in the program, you will understand that a number of matters that I will raise here would have been taken care of by the minister, PIOJ, my PS, and so you may hear some repetition, but repetition is good for your memory. Welcome all, and thank you for being here. Jamaica, in many ways, is on the cutting edge in terms of provision of connectivity. And the USF, the Universal Service Fund, is one of the main vehicles through which connectivity is being established. It has been an interesting journey, and it's my pleasure to share some of the highlights that you today, particularly in relation to providing access for persons with disabilities and other vulnerable groups. We'll start off by looking at Jamaica's National Development Plan, and you would have heard. Vision 2030, and what that says about connectivity. Then we will look at legislation designed to facilitate connectivity, particularly the Telecommunication Act. We will then take a look at the current connectivity landscape in Jamaica, as well as how USF is connecting Jamaica through its many projects, and the impact these projects are having on vulnerable groups. We'll then look at the initiatives on the horizon. Vision 2030 is Jamaica's National Development Plan, which seeks to make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business by the year 2030. Goal one of this plan is to ensure Jamaicans are empowered to achieve their fullest potential. And one of the key ways the government envisioned this, that this goal will be achieved through providing training in and access to ICT at all levels of the society. We trust that Jamaica will become a knowledge-based society with ICT enlightening the populace. Just as streetlights in the early days light the way, ICT will light the way for our people, for the people at large. And this is one of the great opportunities to use ICT to level the playing field. I'd say with the quick movement of bandwidth storage and speed of Wi-Fi, broadband connectivity, artificial intelligence, we could jump the curve pretty quickly if we apply what we need to do. The Telecommunication Act saw to the establishment of the then Universal Access Fund to ensure all Jamaicans were connected through landline phone services. Those were the days. Internet was not yet a biggie. The fund has since evolved as guided by amended legislation to now include the provision of internet service, training, and ICT infrastructure, among other things. We have been making strides, particularly when one considers that Jamaica is a developing country with a hilly terrain and with some persons scattered in very rural areas, all of which are factors that can negatively impact the drive for universal service. Despite this, almost 50% of Jamaicans use the internet regularly and use mobile broadband service in particular. Additionally, in a country of approximately 2.8 million, you would have heard this already, the country has a mobile phone subscription rate of 107%. This means that we have more cell phones in use than people, so much so that we have had to get a new area code 658. So, how are we continuing this drive? Through the execution of projects that target individuals at the community level and that seek to strengthen the capacity of institutions and organizations. We have established over 300 community projects, computer labs, 6 public Wi-Fi hotspots, and we have spent approximately Jamaica $11 billion or US $87 million on the expansion of the island broadband network. The Tablet in School program, which put technology in the hands of secondary and primary level students to increase their learning capabilities, and upgrading ICT facilities across tertiary institutions and public sector organizations. Our aim is to touch all Jamaicans through technology to develop a country of individuals that are not mere consumers of technology, but rather creators. We also have a various focus. We provide multi-million-dollar support in this Center for Disability Studies and provide assistance to individuals who express a need for special technology to help them to tap into their full potential. Additionally, in this financial year, the USF has earmarked $25 million for special projects aimed at empowering individuals with special needs. Looking at the future, USF will continue to support the vulnerable groups. We'll be embarking on bold initiatives to ensure connectivity for all. These include using technology buses, fully equipped buses with tablets and laptop and internet, and take it into the deep rural areas of Jamaica. The expansion of the public Wi-Fi program to include all of the island's 14 parishes, particularly in rural and underserved communities. And a special program to support ICT-related research is being considered to be carried out by the island's tertiary institutions. These are just some of the ways that we are connecting Jamaica. We are facilitating access to ICT while improving accessibility for persons with disabilities and other vulnerable groups through ICTs. And the role of ICT in fostering national development and helping persons achieve self-actualization cannot be understated. Technology is so important that someone once compared it to water. It's a wide stretch. But this is a story I was told. A team of workmen was dispatched to a rural community to carry out infrastructure work. An elderly gentleman, upon seeing the flurry of activities, remarked to the team leader, "Sir, I do hope it is water and that you're digging a well that can provide more water for the community." The man responded, "It's not a well. We're actually putting in infrastructure for broadband internet." The response was, "Internet!" The man exclaimed, "Even better." For those of us who are in Jamaica who know about the push for internet ICT penetration and access, you will have noticed that our telcos can speak well of the expenditure on the connectivity. I thank you, and I'll be sitting there to answer your questions. I know it's been a long day for you, but I know you can manage. I thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, good afternoon, everyone. My name's Trevor Pravat. I'm a consultant with the CTU, the Caribbean Telecommunications Union. If you wish. Okay. This is not. Okay, right, here we are. So the CTU again, the Caribbean Telecommunications Union. Think of it as the ITU of the Caribbean. So the ITU represents ICTs, and it has a mandate to deal with ICTs on a worldwide basis. But the CTU does it for the Caribbean. My role in the CTU, though, is one in which I spearhead our ICT for PWD initiatives. And so what I'm here to talk about today is, and I'll just take you back. This clicker doesn't like me, is the Caribbean Video Assistance Service. So that's what I'm principally here to talk about. The first thing, though, let me just tell you a little bit about the CTU, and you'll hear a bit more about it from our Secretary General, Ms. Bernadette Lewis, who will be here tomorrow. We have 20 member states made up of these Caribbean countries that you see here. And like the ITU, we have other members. For instance, we have ARIN, the American Registry of Internet Numbers. We have private sector members. We have regulators. So that is our membership body there. I think I just missed something there. The mandate for the CTU, we are into harmonized ICT policy formulation. We handle regional ICT project coordination. Spectrum management is something that we do. The CARSIP project that some of you are involved in. We deal with ICT capacity development, and that's one of the reasons why we're very here to be able to be part of this ICT capacity development. We provide to our member states advice on ICT issues. We also provide Caribbean representation, so where our members cannot attend international organization meetings, we will attend on their behalf. And we're also an industry watch, so we keep an eye on what's happening on the industry, and we inform our members what's happening so that they can be ahead of the curve. I'm not sure. Okay, sorry. Right, the Caribbean Video Assistance Service. We call it CVAS for short. What it does is it provides a communication service via the internet, and we are focusing at this point on people who are deaf and people who are blind. The video assistance service, you heard someone mention earlier today about relay services, and that's at the heart of this service. It's a relay service, but because of the technology that's involved, it enables us to actually provide services to the blind as well, and I will demonstrate that later on. But critically, it's via the internet. A lot of the current relay services use proprietary access technologies, but this is done by the internet generally. So CVAS is a collaboration between the CTU and VTC Secure. VTC Secure is a global company out of the United States, providing technology to facilitate communication for the deaf and the blind. And they've done work with the FCC, they've done work with Canada, they've done a lot of work with the ITU as well. But as you've been hearing, it's a lot of what has to happen in the ICT space, it requires collaboration. And so the other collaborators, PWDs, nothing about us without us, PWD organizations, government ministries, regulatory authorities, and in particular I want to mention the Telecommunications Authority of Trinidad and Tobago, network operators, IT organization, and others. So it's a whole group of people that's going to make this happen. CVAS uses smart devices. So you connect your tablet, you connect your smartphone, you connect your laptop, and you use that application that you see there. So that's VTC Secure's application. The icon you're seeing at the bottom there is called PUC for short, Personal Universal Communicator. It's a free downloadable application. You can go to the iPhone store, you can go to the Google store, you can download it for free. For PUC, think Skype, think WhatsApp. It's very similar to that, and it is free. So you could start up your own PUC amongst your friends. Okay, CVAS uses VTC Secure's Solves platform. Solves is for the secure, on-demand video enablement solution platform. So Solves, that platform will sit on the network operator's server, and it provides the connectivity between the people who want to use a service and the agents or sign language interpreters. Those agents can be center or home-based. Now this is, to make sure that I keep within my time, this is just a complicated diagram which sort of brings the whole thing together. But this is the heart of the technology, and it is one of the reasons why it's not up and running as yet. But we've solved that problem, and it's just some funding that we have to put in place now. Okay, so let's just talk about CVAS's capabilities. One of the first, there's really 4 elements. You have deaf to hearing, hearing to deaf. So where the person, now importantly again, is via the internet. So the deaf person would need to use sign language. They would communicate with the agent, very much like the current relay services, and that the agent would then communicate with them to the speaking person that they wish to talk with. And again, I'm going to demonstrate that by means of a video a little later on. Okay, another version of the capability is deaf-to-deaf communication. That's happening at the moment using Skype, using WhatsApp. So, but PUC is another mechanism now that people can use if they wish. And I've been encouraging people within the deaf community. We've been, Kamar here in the audience here, who is with the Jamaica Association for the Deaf. He has PUC. I'm not sure if he's using it. I hope he is, and he has the community here using it. Okay, then importantly, the other capability is between hearing to deaf, deaf to hearing, again using PUC. One of the defining features of PUC is that it has a voice-to-text capability. So I can speak into my smartphone, and what I'm saying will be translated onto the deaf person's smartphone it's an instantaneous basis. VCT Secure uses Watson, and I've seen this in operation, and it really works very well. The downside of it is that the deaf person would have to text back the hearing person, but it is something which is a feature that relay services, WhatsApp and these things do not have at the moment. And then finally, and this is where the technology has allowed us to expand what has just hitherto been really for the deaf. It allows us to provide video assistance for the blind via the same agents, so the same group of agents. So the blind person would use their smartphone to scan the environment, and they would talk to the agent. And again, I'll show you a quick video which will demonstrate that. Right, so this is the first demonstration, and so this demonstration came from a proof of concept we did at the CTU, which is located in Port of Spain, but as I said, it represents 20 member states throughout the Caribbean. So what you're seeing there is one of our ICT for PwC facilitators who is deaf, and he's talking to the person who is on the phone there using PUC, and she was actually located in Florida.
Calling Caribbean Video Assistance Relay Service. How can I help you? Hi, I'm Brian Rodriguez, and I would like to reschedule my doctor's appointment. What phone number would you like me to call? My doctor's number is 868-628-5186. Okay, hold on 1 minute.
So the agent at the top there is placing the call.
It's ringing.
It's ringing.
Dr. Boyce's office, this is Sarah. Good afternoon.
Yes, I have Brian Rodriguez on the line. He would like to reschedule his appointment for the following week. He's deaf, and I'll be interpreting the call, so there might be just a little bit of a delay. Go ahead.
Sure. Let's see. You currently have an appointment on the 23rd of March at 1 p.m. You can come in either on Monday, the 27th of March, or on Thursday, the 30th of March.
I prefer to do Thursday, the 30th of March.
That's fine. We have the 8:30 a.m. and the 11:30 a.m. slots are free at this time.
I prefer to do the 11:30. That would be better for me.
Oh, 11:30 is great. I'm confirming your appointment for 11:30 a.m. on Thursday, the 30th of March. The office will call the day before to reconfirm. What number should I call you on?
Call me at 622-AGENT.
Okay, so that's 622-AGENT. Yes? Thank you very much. Bye.
Thank you as well. Goodbye.
Okay, so that was the first capability we wanted to demonstrate, and this is the second one where now the agent is going to assist someone who's blind.
Video services marketplace. Video remote assist. Customer. Video remote assistant. Selection.
Thank you for calling Video Remote Assistance.
Hello, welcome to the Caribbean Video Assistance Service. Can I help you today?
Hi, good day. I'm here at the CTU's lobby. I'm here for a meeting in the demonstration room. But I'm here for 10 minutes now and no one came and got me.
This wasn't actually
So,
true.
could you assist me to get to the room?
No problem.
But before you do so, and I have some medication in my bag, I like to get labeled because I have to take them as soon as I get at home. So could you assist me to label them, please?
Certainly, just point your camera right at the bottles of medication.
Sure, no problem.
Okay, hold the bottle a little higher. Little to the right. Okay, rotate it a little more the other way. Stop right there. It says vitamin C, 1000 IU caplet.
Thank you very much. I'll put a rubber band on it and be sure to label them with my pen friend when I get at home.
Okay.
Hold on 1 sec.
This may seem simple for most of us.
There's the other bottle.
For someone who's blind.
Okay, if you want to rotate it a little more the other way. Stop right there. It says Bezide 5.0 mg tablet.
Okay, thank you very much. Be sure to label them. Hold on, let me take my bag because I need to get to the meeting quickly because it's shortly starting. Would you assist me to get to the room now, the demonstration room?
Certainly, if you want to pan around the room, I see a door straight ahead that says demonstration room. The door handle is on the left side. Okay, I see another door. Stop. That is the women's bathroom. You don't want to go in there. If you want to pan around the room, I can help you. Okay, stop. I see a hallway and a door straight ahead with a sign. If you want to go ahead and walk straight towards that door.
Let me help you to your seat. This will help you. All right.
Okay, I'm seated. Thank you very much.
All right. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Okay, so I just wanted to give you a... Yes, and so it's a very important variation on what has been available in metropolitan countries for quite some time. And I just want to sort of reiterate something that Bruno and others have said this morning, is that what's very important about these conferences is the sort of relationships and the networking that can take place. So, for instance, I attended, I think it was Accessible Americas 3, and that was in Medellin in Colombia. And there I met the director of the National Association for the Deaf. And they, together with the government of Colombia, they operate a video relay services system. And he was able to provide me through Bruno. They helped me get information from them. And so, it's that sort of thing which really makes these sort of meetings important. Last year at Accessible Americas 4, we presented on this as well, and there I connected the people from VTC Secure to two Colombians who were interested, Costa Ricans, who were interested in introducing CVAS into Costa Rica. Okay, so we hope to launch CVAS very shortly. As I said, there were some tremendous technology differences, difficulties that we had to sort out. Those have now been sorted out. We have a funding issue, and why I mentioned especially the Telecommunications Authority of Trinidad and Tobago earlier, is that they're going to help us, we hope, fund this activity. They are using their universal service funds to do their own project, which is listed there. They're going to use funds to provide assistive mobile devices, smartphones basically, to PWDs. One of the devices that PUC uses is a smartphone. And so their project will see devices being subsidized to bona fide PWDs to buy a cell phone, and you can get a smartphone, TT$600, a little under 80 and 90 US, and that will buy you a smartphone in Trinidad and Tobago with full functioning assistive features that you need to use with PUC. So this is an ongoing project. Our project obviously will complement that, and I'm very much hoping that TAT will come through for us in terms of the funding. Okay, that's it for me. Thank you very much for your attention.
Mic is not working. Can you hear me? Oh, much better. Our next presenter is going to be in Spanish. So for persons who do not speak Spanish, please put on your headsets and welcome me. Please join me in welcoming. Yes, Marissa. Ana Marissa. Thank you.
Buenas tardes a todos los presentes. Muchas gracias a los organizadores del evento por tener en cuenta a la experiencia cubana para compartirla acá. Y muchas gracias al país anfitrión por la bienvenida que nos ha dado. Mi nombre es Ana Maris
My name is Ana
Solórzano,
Maris
soy subdirectora
Solórzano. I'm the
del
General Deputy Director of Hoven Club in Cuba. It's a central technological center.
creados por el comandante
Created by the
Castro Ruz el 8 de septiembre de
Comandante Fidel
1987.
Castro
Su misión,
Ruz in 1987. Its mission is to give service and products with telecommunications, information, and electronics. Hoven Club is also characterized by the needs to give social attention. And this has been a priority for these years to ensure influence in the community. We have worked with children, young people, persons with disabilities. And there are 614 clubs and installations. Most of these are in rural areas, 39 in mountain areas, and 17 work in alliance with other entities. Two of them are mobile units or buses that go to rural areas where we do not have installations, so that we can have great interaction with the population to ensure that they enjoy the services. We have some installations that show the threats and the scope of our services. In 2017, we had a policy for ensuring a greater ICT awareness in Cuba for the 2017 to 2021, and we have two strategic guidelines to ensure that there will be a government policy to have a development plan to ensure the use of ICTs. And these are the principles of these policies are that Hoven Club would try to build capacities in the use of ICTs and the transmission of technology through training courses, whether it be online or distance learning or presence. We have 4.7 million people are reached by this. Hoven Club also guarantees the administration and management of the services platform that is available to the public. We also have the platform that has more than 4,000 blogs. We have the an encyclopedia, which has more than 35,000 visits. We also have 100 and another website that is available to over 100,000 visits per year. We also have the platform called Libre Revista, which has been downloaded more than 9,000 times. One other thing that is Hoven Club is to ensure products and services to the community, to give attention to various parts, different levels of the population. Hoven Club has also worked with 3 associations in the country, and also we try to work with persons with disabilities that do not belong to the associations covered. We have 31 years ago, we started a number of courses to more than 700,000 persons with disabilities. And we started to ensure that we would have massive training for this segment of the population. We try to work for people who are visually impaired and other people on the PWDs. Another important factor in the present situation is the aging of the population. So we have to try to prepare to confront and deal with old age. At present, the use of computers has become indispensable for carrying out most activities. However, for older elderly, it's a great challenge to use the computer. In Hoven Club, we have computer training classes. We have set up courses to exchange with elderly people in the third age. We try to have exchanges, exchange of life experiences and experiences that they can teach the younger generation. Over the 31 years, we have over 180,000 people have graduated from the courses that we offer. In August in 2017, in the Canaan town, we have carried out a project of informatics for all, that is ICTs for all, so that we should try to consolidate and acquire basic knowledge in ICTs. Out of basic experience, you can see the number of people who were taught, and you can see how many people. We have 58,441 people, and we had this carried out in 5 towns. We have started again in various small towns in Cuba, and from this October to December this year, this experience is being extended to the village for these small villages in the Santiago province of Cuba. And here you can see a few pictures of this project. We see the instructors who have gone to these communities and rather far-flung communities to try to teach them about the use of this technology. The most wonderful thing about it is the exchange and the interchange that you have with the communities. Now, people who have taught are also, in turn, trying to teach other people who have not learned this. So this is a wonderful idea. So there are 2 ideas that were raised by Commander-in-Chief Fidel Castro when we defined the scope that Joven Club should have. He said Joven Club is a factory, it's an institution, it's a popular club because we have the family doctor and we have the family's computer. That is the situation in our computer. The computer, the family computer, is part of the community, not only to ensure that they know about computer training, but also it's a center. We have communities where the most important thing in those communities is Joven Club, because you can see the scope of Joven Club then. Our commandant said in 2001, it says, what I want to write is that I feel very happy. Why this? 1 million, more than a young club has seen a telescope with which you can write the infinite universe of the future for the homeland and for the world. I have a video which I'd like to share with you. So this is a Joven Club that we have in the area of Guantanamo. Can you hear it? So the computer Joven Club buildings can show a multiplicity of disciplines, especially for those that are in rural communities such as Costa Rica in this El Salvador municipality. And we try to develop a number of activities and recreational activities for the users. I like to come here and have a good time with the computers. I talk with many of my friends who are playing different types of games. I like to share with my friends. I get some data, I can download data. So this is real part of the popular consultation. All of the activities that are carried out, they are our comrades can transmit all of this information, and all of these activities are very popular. So this is a space within the largest cultural center in the community. We are the Joven Club that gives a daily supply of recreation activities, especially for young people and very old, the elderly. So we have a large number of activities that are very entertaining for the young people because we work 24 hours a day. And when these people come here, they can have a service, a very high level of service that is well accepted by the community.
son algunos de los servicios de mayor demanda y
There are many
aceptación.
services that are in high demand in these centers. So, of course, the computers are extremely important in Cuban families, as you can see. So this is an example, so to speak, of what we are doing in our country. Thank you so much.
So, Krista, you're going to go down, and she wants to be closer to the audience. So I'm going to ask you to welcome her as she comes downstairs. And this is going to segue into the questions, because we want to hear from you.
Pleasant good afternoon to everyone. With protocol already established, I am Krista Burke Medford, Universal Service Fund Administrator of the National Telecommunications Regulatory Commission in Grenada. With the sitting for the whole day, I thought it better to be down here so at least I can walk about and do my exercise, yeah? Okay. So this initiative I would outline is an initiative that has been executed by the NTRC Grenada, and it would be in line with Session 2 with regards to the key interests as it relates to persons with disabilities. We'll also be looking at women and girls in ICTs, what sort of initiatives were done to empower our women to have them more involved in ICTs, as well as our youths. So the presentation outlined who we are in terms of the NTRC, what are some of the initiatives executed by NTRC Grenada, the opportunities created as a result of the initiative, the challenges, and some of the lessons that we learned through the execution of those initiatives. So who exactly are we? NTRC Grenada, short for National Telecommunications Regulatory Commission. The NTRC is the telecommunications regulator in Grenada, responsible for regulating the telecommunications sector to ensure a conducive environment which fosters an open, competitive market. We are one of the ECTEL member states. ECTEL is short for Eastern Caribbean Telecommunications Authority. There are a total of 5 member states. So we have Grenada, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Lucia, Dominica, and St. Kitts, most of which I believe are represented here. The NTRC has been established by the Telecommunications Act of 2001, and this provides the roles, the functions, powers, as well as the mandate of the NTRC. As part of our responsibility, we are also responsible for the administration of the Universal Service Fund, USF, which is also here in Jamaica as well. And the Universal Service Fund regulations stipulates the guidelines with regards to the execution of projects, which is surrounding the expansion of telecommunication services to our unserved and underserved areas throughout Grenada, special interest groups such as persons with disabilities, as well as the maritime areas, just to name a few. And so the initiatives that I will be looking at were executed under the Universal Service Fund. So what are some of our initiatives? Persons with disabilities. In 2015, the NTRC had a project that focused on ICT for persons with disabilities, where ICT devices were provided targeting 10 agencies that serve persons with disabilities. The objective of this project was to do a number of things. 1, inclusion of persons with disabilities. 2, integrate ICTs in our schools for special education, and also to increase training and computer literacy among persons with disabilities. This project was done in collaboration with the Grenada National Council of the Disabled, which is the umbrella organization in Grenada that is responsible and works with the other agencies as it relates to persons with disabilities. So some of the other agencies under the umbrella organization includes Resource Center for the Blind, a School for Special Education, the School for the Deaf, just to name a few. Now, the key thing with this project, and some of the equipment are displayed on the slide, is that some of the devices were provided to persons in the mainstream school. So in Grenada, persons who are someone who is visually impaired, who is blind, they are integrated into the mainstream schools. And as a result, the devices were provided to them to enable them to operate within the schools and be independent of their sighted peers. This project, as I said, was done with the Grenada National Council of the Disabled, and also include, in addition to providing the equipment, it also included a support element to the agencies for a period of 2 years. So moving along to the next project, in 2017 and also into 2018, the NCRC executed a solar-powered eye, as well as Braille keyboards and so
that we can
would be able to utilize the facility. Now, the objective of this facility was primarily to provide training in the areas of science, technology, engineering, mathematics, training to farmers as well as women within the community. This was done in collaboration with the Ministry of Education, who would be responsible for running the center. Like the first project, it also includes a support component that will run for a period of 3 years. As you can see, targeted 2 communities, underserved community in the rural area, and will also be used by schools in Grenada, particularly for the introduction of robotics. So women and girls in ICT, what are some of the initiatives that were done? In 2012, the NCRC worked with community-based organizations to execute what we call children online protection. While we may not necessarily see it as inclusion, we believe it's important because the USF focused on executing projects, for instance, Wi-Fi. I know the director would have spoke about Wi-Fi access points that would have been established throughout Jamaica. So Grenada, we also have the same instance. And because we are focusing on internet-type cafes, community access points, and also complementary Wi-Fi throughout Grenada, we believe it's important to encourage persons about responsible use of technology. And so this started in 2012 and continued through 2016, and about over 900 persons would have been trained. In 2013, we had a Building e-Business course, again done with the community-based organization. And the objective here was to facilitate training for our women and small business persons with regards to how you can use technology to, one, create employment, or how you can use it to market your business, specifically persons who did not know how to use a computer or who was not what we would say technologically savvy. In 2015, 16, and 17, we had ICT training, again for women, mothers, and this was in basic and advanced ICT as part of increasing computer literacy, the skill set of our women so that they can gain employment within society. For women and girls, continuing with the girls, we had 2013 mentorship. Every year, ITU under the Girls in ICT, this would be observed in April of every year. And the NCRC, in observance of that, executed a mentorship where we educated our girls on career opportunities available within the field of ICT. This would have been done with the telecommunication providers in Grenada, as well as the university and community college, looking both at the academics as well as what is available within the field, and was also to empower them and to encourage them to consider fields within the field of ICT, which we know is growing. We had the Children Online Protection. This was taken to the students within the schools, and this started in 2014 and continued through 2016. Also, as part of engaging our girls, we had a website competition. I know this morning we spoke about accessibility and how the websites should be read by persons with disability. This was not considered, but it's something that will be considered going forward, so very helpful information. But we had a website competition, and in 2017, robotics. The purpose of the robotics was to allow our students to, how can you use ICT to create solutions to problems in society? For instance, pollution. How do you program that bot to be able to address some of these problems were some of the things that they had to do. And that was the winning school that is shown in the picture. In 2015 to 2017, we had scholarships. This is the first for the NTRC. 10 full scholarships awarded to our girls as well as guys. So it was basically for youths. And it was full scholarship. In addition to scholarship being provided, we also had a mentorship where staff at the NTRC was available to mentor our young girls and our boys in terms of career selection. In addition, we also provided internship opportunity for each of them. I'm very proud to say that one of the girls who was funded under this scholarship graduated the top of her class. She was able to intern with the NTRC and is now studying at the St. George's University. So opportunities. What were some of the opportunities created? Integration of ICTs in school for special education, as I would have mentioned. Increased computer literacy through the training program that was provided for persons with disabilities. Independence of persons with disabilities in the mainstream schools through the technology provided. And also increased awareness on inclusion by having these initiatives and engaging persons, Ministry of Education, the Council of Disabled, and other stakeholders. It meant that we were able to shed light to the importance of inclusion. Women and girls in ICT, we had skills training among our unemployed, awareness on the responsive use of technology, introduction of robotics in the schools. We do not currently have that program, so this was facilitated through the USF to start the process, exposure to ICTs, and also educational opportunities for our youths. So what were some of the main challenges? First of all, the regulations. The USF, as I mentioned, is based on the Universal Service Fund regulation. As it is currently worded, it focuses on a telecommunication provider being the recipient of the contract to execute the project. What it means is that it limits persons who can execute the project. For instance, if a telecommunication provider is not interested in executing that project, you run the risk that the project would not be executed, not so? And so what has happened is that our process is not competitive because you do not have a lot of providers interested. So with ECTEL, there was a consultation to change this. So once it is changed, we believe that this would be addressed because now it will be more open. The National ICT Plan, we had an ICT plan in place. This would have unfortunately expired in 2010. So since then, some of the initiatives that were being done were just executed by the NTRC, not necessarily in a collaborative way to achieve an overall agenda. We do have one, I was told, ICT strategy for the next 3 years. However, persons with disability is not detailed, so I'm hoping from an outcome of this, one of the things that I can take back to Grenada is the importance of including this as part of the ICT strategy. Existing infrastructure for persons with disability. One of the challenges that we've had for the Solar Powered ICT Center project is that the facility was not accessible for persons with disability, didn't have ramps. And the USF, it's limited in terms of, it focused on the infrastructure and services, but not in terms of buildings or creating ramps or so. So it means that we had to work with community-based organization and the ministry in order to construct the ramp to make sure that the center is accessible, because we're saying that we're going to have devices for persons with disability. We would have wheelchair accessible station. So one of the things was creating that ramp to ensure that it's accessible. And that's one of the challenges in executing these projects. Looking at the facility as it currently exists, some of them are not accessible for persons with disabilities. In-country capacity on innovative equipment. What sort of equipment can we look at going forward in terms of executing projects for persons with disability, as well as post-project support is key as it relates to sustainability. Women and girls are one of the challenges, lack of community presence. Of course, we had to work with community-based organizations, which was not extensive in some communities, so it meant that we were limited in terms of which community we targeted. The existing curriculum did not have programming, which meant that if we were executing the robotics, or when I should say we executed the robotics and the website, it meant that we had to include a training component. And also limited resources to execute on a large scale, because it's the understanding that USF should focus on infrastructure type projects. So I'm very happy that from this meeting we can see that funds can also be channeled, and increased funds can be channeled to projects that focus on persons with disabilities. So what were the lessons learned for us? Involvement of wider stakeholders is very important. Critical, involving persons with disability if you are going to do something for them. Nothing about us with us. Is that correct? Did I say it correct? Okay, great. Training on equipment during the project to ensure that once the equipment is provided, persons can actually use the equipment, not to assume that they know how to use the equipment. And also development of technical capacity post-project to ensure that there is a support component, and also to ensure sustainability is critical. So, to wrap up, inclusion works to the advantage of everyone. We all have things to learn, and we all have something to teach. Helen Henderson. So with that, I say thank you very much. Thanks to Ministry of Science and Technology and ITU for affording me the opportunity to make this presentation. I can be contacted, and this is my email address. So it's cburke@ectel.int, medfordkrista@gmail.com. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Now the floor is now open. Do we have any questions from the audience? Yes. Could you state your name and country and where you're from?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Melissa Sutherland. I represent the Association of Caribbean Operators, that is the telecoms operators in the region. And I also work for one of the providers. But at this conference, I'm representing all the providers who are members of Cantor, which are most of the operators in the Caribbean. So I have some questions, and I also have a clarification that needs to be made, or rather a response. So I'm going to start with Krista Burke-Melford. Krista, thank you for that presentation. Very happy to know that Grenada is doing some more work on universal service. I, however, want to set the record straight on the matter of universal service and the interest of operators in providing service. If I recall, Mrs. Burke-Melford, please correct me if I got it wrong, because I could have, but I think I heard you say that the providers are not interested in providing service based upon the, how things are. I want to make reference, though, just ahead of your response, to the consultation that was run in 2016 by ECTEL on proposed changes to the Universal Service Fund in the ECTEL member states. I can speak very intimately about this matter since I had written the response. And at the time, Grenada was using less than 1% of its funds. And the providers had responded about opportunities to actually use the funds. So, and this continues to be one of the platforms with regards to universal service, which I will also address in my presentation tomorrow, that we're very interested in being given an opportunity to use those funds to, in particular, roll out our infrastructure so that more and more customers, rather, can be connected. So if I got it wrong, please, I apologize, and I very much want to know that I got it wrong. So if you wish to respond to that,
yes,
and then
I
get
will.
on to Trevor's.
With regards to the interest, it's specifically as it relates to bidding, and this is Grenada's experience, as I indicated. For the past 3 projects, we have had only one bidder submitting a bid, and it would have been, a smaller provider. And this has been the issue for the past project. So it's something that is basically stated in facts. In terms of the percent, that information is incorrect. It was just based on disbursements of 1 year and not based on allocations or other projects where funds would have already been committed.
Okay.
So that's just based on disbursements and not projects committed as well as projects ongoing.
Thank you. You're not being cross-examined at all. I just want to ask one question, which is, how long you have been in the particular role. Has it been, last couple of years or so? Because this response would have been from 2016.
I have been there for, the past 3 years.
The past 3 years. Thank you very much. I'm very happy to see the progress, and certainly we will be interested in some of those projects. Thank you so very much.
You're welcome.
Trevor, thank you for your presentation. I just have a question here, Trevor. I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to the rollout of CVAS. Sorry about that. I'm looking forward to the rollout of CVAS. Some of the examples struck me as odd, and it made me think about the integration of services. For example, and then I'll go back to my comments. For example, if I'm going to the doctor and my doctor knows me, I'm expecting that a system would have already been developed to support me, but perhaps that's just because I don't have that particular challenge. But I don't want to really debate that. It just made me think. I have two questions regarding CVAS that have to do with emergency services, where I see this being particularly helpful for persons with disabilities, and I stand to be corrected, as well as privacy issues. Privacy is a big issue for everybody these days, but because persons with disabilities may have to rely more on mediators, it may perhaps, again, I allow the community to speak for itself, because more mediation is necessary, there could be greater exposure of that data, and if that is something that has been considered. But I think it's great, and of course we always speak about funding at some particular time. Thank you, Trevor.
Okay, thank you. Yes, you're quite right that privacy issues are definitely something that have to be considered. But at the CTU, we want to get something going. In the United States, where this thing has been available for quite some time, there are rules and regulation that govern this sort of thing. And it's something that we are going to work with the PWDs and others to try to make sure that we can get it as right as possible. But if we were to stay and wait to get it right, we would never get it launched. So it's something that we're very much mindful of, and so we will be looking into that.
Thank you for those excellent questions. We have another lady over there. Could we get a mic to her? And then we're going to take this gentleman in front.
Thank you very much. Very insightful presentation. This question, my name is Christine Hendricks, and I'm from the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities. Happy for the work of the Universal Service Fund with the university and the Wi-Fi in the urban areas throughout our country. However, many persons with disabilities do not attend university and sometimes do not have access, or they do not live in the urban centers, even in the rural areas. And so they are unable to get that connection to the Wi-Fi service that may be in the towns. And so the thinking, or I'm wondering what is the plan of the Universal Service Fund in considering enabling the subsidization of the cost of the technology for persons with disabilities. Earlier in our training session, that was one of the suggestions that was put forward to, consider subsidizing the cost of these devices, a smartphone, for example, to persons with disabilities, or laptops that will enable their education and, for some, their employment. I'd also like to know if it is that the Universal Service Fund would consider the introduction, if it is that it is something that our population who are deaf in Jamaica would like to have greater access to, the introduction of the POC technology that was introduced by our presenter for our persons who are deaf in Jamaica, which would then allow for greater interaction with the rest of the society, their health professionals and other service providers generally. Thank you.
Thank you for those questions. I think Robert is going to respond.
Yeah, so I assume that's for me, right?
Yes.
Good. Yes, we did mention earlier that we have some 300 campsites, community access points that we provide the internet and the equipment for. And we've also provided, in some instances, personnel to support it. So it is for the general community that we use that for. In addition to that, the broadband, the Wi-Fi broadband, we did mention earlier that we've been moving to take it right through the island. And in addition to that, we'll be using the buses, fully equipped buses with equipment to go into the inner lands to take it to the vulnerable. The other two questions, whether or not we will look at it, certainly. It is something that's been presented and we will give it some, we will look at it. Whether we'll fund equipment, providing a proposal gets to us to consider. And because of the sector that you are in, or the grouping that you're in, the Telecoms Act makes special reference to you. And yes, we will consider a proposal, just looking at it. I can't approve it clearly right now, but yes, we'll be prepared to look at it. But it must be taken in a wholesome way and a sustainable way. Because sometimes, for argument's sake, our campsites, we have some 300 spread throughout, right? And we found in the early stages that we had a good 60, 70 that had a sustainability problem because of electricity. So then we had to go and put solar into some 42 units, campsites, and we plan to review to see how many more we may need to do. So if you buy you an instrument today, and in 2 years' time it is not functioning again, and then we buy another set again. We have to look at it totally and see how can we support and make the entire thing accessible. And I don't have the answer right now. But surely to buy the equipment once may not be the answer, but we can look at it.
Thank you for that response and question. Now we're going to need some help with our next participant.
Your presentations were really interesting, but one of the things that bothered me is that a lot of people spoke about the disability sector needing ICTs and accessibility. Maybe many of you will say the deaf community, we need this technology, we need relay services, we need these things. But personally, I think we need both not just the deaf community, but the hearing community would need access to the relay services because you need access to me. When I'm using sign language, you don't understand my language. You don't understand JSL. So if we had the technology, you would be able to communicate with us. If you speak, I won't understand you. The point is, with technology, we'll be able to bridge the communication gap between hearing and deaf for the both of us. So now I have a question for you. The deaf community tends to pay a lot when we're using services. We have to pay for interpreting services. We have to pay for everything. When the deaf person goes, they have to pay for the internet bill, and we also have to pay for interpreting services. For the hearing community, you just pay the internet bill. For the blind, pay the internet bill. Everybody else, they just pay the internet bill. But for the deaf community, we need interpreters for a lot of reasons. So from we're young, we realize that we're going to need a lot of money to pay interpreters. I know that there is Vision 2030 and we have a lot of ideas on what we want. But my question is, how are we going to reach there without access for the deaf community? As the president of Deaf Sports Jamaica, I've worked with several hearing people who are friendly to the deaf community, but guess what? It still comes with a price. We still have to pay for the technology that we need. We still have to pay for the screen at the finish line. There's a lot of things that we have to pay for when it comes to ICTs, and it costs a lot of money for the deaf community. It's not a little bit of money.
Very profound statement. Thank you for that. Who is going to take that? Sure. We need your name. Thank you for
Sorry, my name is Andre Whittle.
Thank you, Andre. Bobby?
I'm on? Yeah. Well said. Well said. Now, it's interesting that my PS is here as well, too. My permanent secretary is right over there. And clearly, we'll just take it under consideration because points you've made, they're real. And it's unfortunate that you must pay just to survive, just to live. So we're going to have a look at it. Obviously, I can't give a commitment for the government, but we will certainly give it some consideration to see what we can do or make it a little easier.
To make a change. We have a question.
Could I just add,
Sure.
I just wanted to make sure that you understood that the CVAS service is a two-way street. So if someone wants to talk to you, they can go through the service as well. So just the same way in the first thing that you saw, that it was the deaf person who was communicating through the agent with the receptionist. The receptionist could call him back via the service as well. So there's that two-way communication that's part of that CVAS system.
Thank you for that, Trevor. We have a question.
Hi, good afternoon. Kimberly Sherlock, Executive Director for Jamaica Association for the Deaf. Andre basically gave 90% of what the question I was going to ask. But for me, it's more the intricate details on the back end. To manage the service, is there an agency that would be set up as a part of an agency somewhat like the Universal Service Fund? Is it an entity that is separate government? I'm just trying to understand the back end work to ensuring that the relay system can be implemented. Because I know while we can talk about the user and the paying, it's the back end that would include the staffing and the overheads and all that stuff, the technology upgrades, the tech support. Who handles that bit of it?
Well, the technology, that aspect of it, the VTC Secure would provide that sort of support for us. But you're quite right. One of the hurdles that we're facing is, for instance, ensuring that we get sufficient agents. We're trying to pilot the project in three territories. We wanted to start it off in Trinidad and Tobago. We're looking for Jamaica to be part of that 3-country, and I'm looking for another country that will be part of it, and then we want to roll it out. And I think each country is going to be different, how we sort of implement it, so that there's lots to be sorted out. And the pilot, which is meant to be at least 3 months, it's probably going to run for 6 months, is going to try and iron out some of those things. But for instance, in the Trinidad and Tobago context, what we're going to use is the local deaf organization there, the Trinidad and Tobago Association for the Hearing Impaired, because they have an interpreter already on board. 2, they have a lot of space, so they could be center-based rather than people individually, and so that they will provide the central sort of administrative services, because the CTU can't do it, TAT, for instance, can't do it, but this particular organization, the TAHI as it's known in Trinidad and Tobago, that can provide that sort of back, support services that you have mentioned. But through Kamar, who, as you know, works with the CTU as one of our ICT for PWD workshop facilitators, we do want to speak with you and your group so we can move forward with Jamaica being one of the pilot countries.
That's excellent news. Very good. We have one question right there. We have the mic. And then we're going to take 3 more, and then we're going to close off the session.
So this is David Fazio from the U.S. again, and I just wanted to dial it back really quick to this public-private partnership thing that I was mentioning earlier. So Starbucks has actually launched a global initiative to bring sign language to its stores and its location and to activate the deaf community as part of their consumer market. That's a perfect example of something that you can tap in to get these programs going and to fund them. Right now they're staffing sign language interpreters in their stores, but I know they're open to other more creative ideas as well. So just to keep things like that in mind.
Excellent. To the person to your right.
Minette Lawrence, Jamaica. Okay. I don't need to stand, do I? No. Okay. Well, first of all, from the presentations earlier this morning, it's been thought-provoking, and for someone who is here representing a broadband carrier, appreciating the significance of integrating accessibility in the center of the planning of the services is certainly, it's been a wake-up call for us here. But I just want to say, having seen such a deep focus on universal service funding and programs, I want to make an observation and hopefully plant a seed of thought in the minds of those who are planning and executing. I think we have lost our way somewhat, and I so appreciate Mr. Witter's contribution a short while ago, because he reminded us that the universality of a service does not mean it should require any special effort for those who are disabled or have particular needs to reach the service. And when we when we went into liberalization in Jamaica and considered how best to provide for universal service, it was intended to be such that in the same way a sighted person or one who is not hearing impaired can pick up the phone or pick up a device and have seamless access to the service which they desire to use, it should be that way for all citizens. There should be no special cost or any special effort that they would need to make to enjoy the service. That is at the heart of the universality. And the Universal Service Fund was intended to be the source of the subsidy that would make it possible for carriers to provide service with that level of care and complexity without it being a burden to the user of the service. So I think it's a wake-up call for many of us, and I really hope that when we leave here, we will now interact with the carriers in a way that compels all of us, both as a matter of conscience and as a matter of business, to approach the design and the delivery of our service so that no man is left behind.
That is a profound statement, and thank you for that point. We're going to take one question here and then right here.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tashai Widmer. it's really an honor to be here this afternoon. I feel that, this theme was really perfect. It has aligned well with a lot of diverse groups in Jamaica and specifically the world. I really appreciate hearing your presentations and how you apply different things to your countries. But as a deaf person, seeing Sivas by Trevor, I really appreciated that because it really matches me as a deaf person. It would really help me. But for the Caribbean, we have to work together, partner, and discuss. And I understood Andre's point, and JAD and the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disability and FLOW and all these different organizations, we have to come together to find out what the best needs are for persons with disabilities. The PIOJ group said that we have to make sure we have equity and ensure that everybody's needs are met. And so we need to ensure that it applies and it's effective and efficient. And so we need to ensure that, deaf persons have access, so they should be included when making decisions.
Definitely agreed. We have one person and then last person, okay? Right here, Mike, in front. This is very interesting. And I'm glad I'm hearing from all of you. And I'm sure this is food for thought. So much so that we're going into the cocktail party, but not to worry. We're going to wrap up after this. Please go ahead.
Eudalie Wickham Ashby from Barbados. And like many others, I appreciate the discussion and the information shared because this is a critical area for persons with disabilities. In terms of the whole issue of privacy, particularly for persons with disabilities, how are you, particularly with CVAS, ensuring that the privacy of the users is protected? And generally now, in relation to ICTs, and making them very accessible to persons with disabilities, sometimes very personal data is shared, particularly in the health sector. What data protection legislation and education is being used to help the service providers and the users understand the importance of their privacy being protected and their rights not being violated?
Trevor, you're going to take that question?
Well, it's similar. The answer really is similar to what I'd mentioned earlier, to Alicia's question. It's, the issue of privacy can be very, very tricky. And the approach that we're taking is that we're going to sort of get the service going. We're going to run it, as I say, for a 6-month pilot and see how these issues can be ironed out within that time. As I said, in the United States, there's legislation that deals with that. But if we were to wait for that to happen, it's not going to happen. So it really is working with the people with disabilities for them to say, well, what's acceptable to you? My just sort of gut way of doing it was saying that you would sign basically something that would waive, initially not your rights, but you would be in control. You would be able to say what or you want to the agent. So you don't necessarily have to share information. But certainly it is something that we really very much have to look at. And it is something that as we develop the system, more and more has to be put in place. But I really, we want to try and get the system rolling rather than wait to make it perfect before we get it going.
Thank you, Trevor. Our last question for the evening, in front. Remember to introduce him.
Hi, good evening, everyone.
My name is Kamar Groves. I am deaf. I'm also a deaf advocate. And in relation to the presentations recently, I have a number of concerns. So as it relates to establishing a system for all to be included, you're doing a wonderful job. As it relates to CVAS, so we're trying to develop POG to have communication access for all. And the term nothing for us without us, that part as it relates to inclusion is very important to me. So we need to make sure that the feedback is given, and as we evolve, we develop the system to match our needs. And also the recent comment about privacy, we imagine that POC and CVAS would be with a deaf person communicating with a hearing person. Once the interpreter receives the voicing and that's translated, and the interpreter would also have to sign an agreement. So whatever information is passed, there is a commitment of trust and the work ethics of an interpreter. So we don't expect the interpreters also to be sending the information. So we would have a list of expectations. And we've been trying to start, but the funding has been an issue. So as Andre commented before, deaf persons constantly having to spend from their own pockets. We really need to try to discuss with our government, Flow and Digicel, we need, our cost reductions because we don't have the same access to phones and the internet, Wi-Fi, etc., data. We don't have the same access. So we've been trying to negotiate to reduce the cost for us. And the hearing, if we compare what the hearing have to pay compared to us as deaf persons, the magnitude is significant. So, they're constantly saving money and we're constantly having to spend. It doesn't feel like equality at all. And so we hope that the Universal Fund can support the development of this. We really hope that you all support us as well to find some way to the solution and to develop better as a society.
Thank you for that. And I think we've heard from our stakeholders. In closing, I'm just going to ask everybody just to say some final words, just show a brief word on what we have heard and what it's a very provocative comments that have come from the audience. Are we really doing enough? Is there really inclusion? We have pockets of innovation, but are we targeting everybody? Is no man or woman left behind? Those are questions. So I'm going to start with you, Robert, and we're going to work our way.
I'll make it quick and short. This is very, very useful, and we have some good time. We have been some useful exchanges. We at Universal Service Fund must continue to look at ways to serve the vulnerable. And I say vulnerable because we have the deaf, we have the blind, we have the youth at risk, we have the Diabetic Association, we have the Heart Foundation. You see where I'm going? There's a lot of demand on the resources, and so we have to find ways to balance it off. But as you say, we'll give a further and deeper look to see how we can affect some changes to make it easier for the sectors.
Ana Maris.
En el caso nuestro ha sido muy útil participar en esta presentación. De hecho, llevamos un montón de experiencias para nuestro país. Igual el tema de la inclusión lo tenemos presente, pero a nivel de país siempre nos quedan muchas cosas por hacer. Y ha sido toda una experiencia compartir con ustedes. Gracias.
Thank you. Trevor.
Yeah, one of the things with CVAS as I say, we're piloting it, we want to pilot it in the 3 countries, but it is a Caribbean-wide thing. So I was really happy for the opportunity to come here again because I knew there were going to be a number of Caribbean countries here, and so that this is great. And I hope we are able to sort of excite people's interest in implementing such a service in your territories. In terms of the Universal Fund, I'd just like to make the point that one of the things that you find is that the legislation in each of the countries tend to be different. And for instance, it has limited the access to some of the funds. And possibly what's needed is where the regulators or whoever controls the universal funds come together in a way that they rationalize and harmonize how we deal with it. Because in some countries, the funds have to be operated with and through the operator. In other countries, it's not there. In some countries, people are just not using the funds because of the complexity of the legislation. So that's something that needs to be done as well. Okay, so something that one needs to consider.
Excellent. Crystal?
Thank you. I think for Grenada, for me specifically, what stood out, a lot of comments were made from persons who are deaf, specifically what can be done as it relates to technology for persons with disability and how you can involve them because a lot of money is being spent. So I think for me that is one of the takeaway from this session. As it relates to inclusion, I think that we are doing, but there is definitely a lot more that can be done. The session this morning was definitely an eye-opener for me in terms of inclusion, integration. So that is one of the takeaway that I can go back and basically do an assessment in terms of how we can go forward. Thank you.
So I really would like to thank my panel. I think this was a very good discussion. And I want to thank you, my audience, for participating and sharing with us and calling on us to do more. Thank you and enjoy the rest of the conference and the rest of the evening. Good evening.
This is the end of the day of the session. May I make an announcement? Yeah. Yeah. Excuse me, may I have your attention only for 1 second? We try to have the list, the complete list of the person who attended the training during the morning. We do have only 70 persons. We know that there were more than this. I would like to reiterate the fact that we have to receive from you the 3 key points that you retain from the training or you like it more. We indicate 2 email addresses. Do you need to have on the screen these email addresses to? Okay, so we will have it here in the next 5 minutes, but please don't forget to send us this because we have to coordinate with Geneva in order to ensure that the certificates will be done. The latest perhaps can be tomorrow morning, but I would much appreciate if you can send me your name and from where are you coming, the institution, and the 3 key points at the email address either today until the end of the day or latest by tomorrow morning, 9 o'clock, in order to use the time difference and send this to Geneva. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, just a reminder that immediately as we leave, we're going into the welcome reception, which is being hosted by the Hyatt Ziva for us. So Bridget on the terrace immediately through the doors and straight outside. And also, we want to remind you to return all your headsets that you got to the desk where you picked them up. On the way out, please take your headset with you and return it to the desk outside the door. Thank you very much.